Okay, awesome. Hi everyone, it's Barty Carla, and it's Better Me, Better We Week. We've been talking about the power of everyday actions when it comes to redefining change. It may be easy to feel like there's not much that the things you do every day can do, but it's really not true. It's never been true. It never will be true. Everyday action is extremely powerful because it happens every day. Literally the magic of it. It's the magic of numbers. It's the magic of repetition. In yogic science, we call it the magic of it's samskaras. It's mental grooves. The things you get into the habit of doing, they create literally the experience of life that you have. So this week we've been talking about this concept of better me, better we, and the power of everyday action in three areas. Everyday action in personal health and well-being, everyday action in business and the workplace, and everyday action in community. And we've had some great guests coming on just to share their take on just what that means for them personally and in their given professions and services. So today I have a lovely, lovely dear friend, Reina Namaste, who is a licensed clinical social worker, a licensed substance abuse counselor, a Reiki master, and an intuitive healer. She's just an all-rounded, multi-dimensional healer. What can we say? That's like the perfect nutshell. So, first of all, welcome, Reina. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Carla, for that wonderful introduction. Only you can get me up early in the morning. Only Carla can do that. That and God. So
Love it.
I'm
I'm
sitting
very
with this
proud of you for
topic.
that.
Thank you. That's the commitment.
As a service to the people.
Serve the
Great.
people.
So, yeah, when you think about this, right? Better me, better we. I can imagine being in this shared school of service. I know part of my journey was realizing that that actually worked in that way. It's kind of like A comes
Mhm.
before B in the alphabet. So that took some learning for me as well, that the better we that I was hoping for and plugging away for was only going to happen when I was in the best version of myself. So
Mhm.
I would love to hear your take on just with the life that you've lived, what better me, better we means for you.
Okay. So, yeah, I've been sitting with this topic for a little bit, and it seems to be all encompassing, really. And it does start with me. There's been so many times that I've witnessed myself and other people in my practice. They try and look outside of themselves to fix an internal problem. They try and go for outside things, outside people to fill a hole that only can be filled by, love of self, love of, I'll use the word God, but for people that might be uncomfortable with that word, I'll just call divine source. Okay. So allowing that space for divine source to come in. And so many times people walk around and they have like issues and problems and addictions and different things going on and looking outside of themselves to fill that. It's when we are able to turn inward, when we're able to look inside and see the war that's going on in our mind, in our bodies. What is the self-talk? What are you saying to yourself? The words that you speak to yourself every day matter. The internal dialect that matters. What we're feeding ourselves in terms of food, social media, what we're watching on Netflix, all of these things matter.
Consumption.
Yeah, it influences us, right? Music influences us, everything influences us. So it's about taking that inward journey to do that healing, to do the shadow work, to do the things that we don't necessarily want to do, to face the things that we don't necessarily want to face. And that's where the work comes in. And the little daily practices, the little tiny things, even if it's just getting up and taking a shower. Some people suffer with depression around this time of year, and it's a real struggle just to get out of bed. So sometimes even just getting up, getting out of bed and getting into the shower can be a real struggle for people. And like allowing yourself to be where you're at and working with yourself where you're at and creating small daily achievable goals that you can be proud of. You know, don't set something so high up here that you can't reach. It's the little steps that count, the daily steps. And that brings me to the word, it reminds me of consistency and commitment and resiliency. You know,
Yes.
being committed to yourself, being committed to your mental health and well-being. And I also want to take away the stigma from mental health. We are all human beings, every single one of us. We are meant to be social humans. We're not, one person is meant to struggle through life on their own, right? And there's so much stigma around mental health and substance use that people are afraid to ask for help. You know, people feel ashamed of it. And I'm here to tell you there is no shame in being mentally healthy, wealthy, wise, abundant, you know, and taking care of yourself in those ways. Meeting somebody to talk to, seeking therapy, counseling, or whatever that thing is. There is no shame in that. In fact, that's what we need more of that, right? We need more people willing to do the deep dive and to look at the selves that they're afraid to see. Um, and you know,
100%.
when we're like there's creates a dissonance, you know, when our actions aren't meeting our words, there's a cognitive dissonance there, and it creates this uncomfortability and it creates this distortion, you know, in the body and in the mind. And if I'm not full, if my cup is not full, how can I pour into my students and my um, friends and my family and my clients, you know? If I'm only working on like 50%, then I can barely give you 50%. And if I'm not at my best, how can anybody else be at my best? And that's for the workplace, that's for community. They all are all encompassing. And it all starts from the one, the me, the I, and the work I'm willing to
Exactly.
do, you know, and setting those
I'm going to
goals.
pause you for a second
I'm
because
sorry.
you just reminded me of this awesome phrase that we had this workshop on the weekend. It's a hormone yoga, right? And then just some
Nice.
Kriya yoga for balancing the hormones. And the gal said, "No, you pour from the saucer.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's overflow, right? You know, we
Yeah.
talk about the overflowing cup. Well, that's what the saucer is for, right? That's how you know you pour from the saucer." And I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was just the best. That's been like on my mind all week. Am I pouring from the saucer? Okay, it's not the cup. The cup is supposed to be for me. The
Mm-hmm.
saucer, that's what it's for. It's for my overflow. Here you go.
That's a really good way of looking at it too. I got this whole visual of this cup of tea flowing over and like, here's the rest, you know, and that's the process that we want to be full,
Yeah.
you know,
Now,
and the more we do things consistently, we create habits. And they say it takes 21 days to create a habit, right? And it's like you're creating
at
new neural
least
pathways in the brain
that's
when
and
you do
that's
that.
in a mind that hasn't been through a tremendous amount of chronic stress, ongoing
Mhm.
stress and pressure and whatnot, because that mind would need way more time because of just how fixed,
Yeah.
how fixed the processing is, and how the inability to be flexible is not quite there because of the lack of
Yeah.
safety. So yeah,
Yeah.
minimum 21 days. With your work, I mean, even just standard uh, counseling is just tremendous work all by itself. I mean, I commend you
Mhm.
so much for that. And that's a that's a profession of giving, for real. Um, and then with your specialized work with substance abuse, tell me what you see and what you've seen to be the most, perhaps on the most challenging, and then the most helpful for your clients when it comes to that. Let me find one thing that. How do you get them? How is it possible to help them to see that idea that, yeah, this one thing is actually big enough? What is that? How has that been challenging for you? And how have you found to help them find success in that? There's my question.
That's a very big question, especially when it comes to, long-term recovery. And that does debunk the 21 days because you're absolutely correct with that. Somebody that has like more resiliency, can meet that quote unquote 21 days. But there are people that have had long, many, many years of trauma that I've seen and witnessed. And it takes them a little bit longer. It takes them, especially in, recovery. I worked a lot with people that had like opioid use disorder, and that was a lot of heavy, heavy work. There is such an internal struggle, with people trying to find that hope and resiliency within themselves. It's like battling this big, I don't know, dark force inside. It almost takes over the person. So you really got to do a lot of work with that person to pour into them, for them to be able to pour into themselves. Some people work well like going to 12-step meetings. Some people work well with harm reduction.
Mm.
Some people, you got to meet the person where they're at. And, the hope has to come from within them. You're kind of there as a guide, and really it sometimes addiction can be an uphill battle, but it also can be achieved. And that takes a lot of tenacity. That takes commitment. That takes putting your first one foot in front of the other, one day at a time. That means that when those feelings, those intense emotions come up, the ones that trigger us, the ones that have us acting outside of ourselves, that is the moment where we need to push through that resistance and continue doing the healthy habits that we created for ourselves, even if it's in the first day, the second day, the third day. And you might even get to a point where you're like, I'm good. You might get on this pink cloud and I'm good, I'm okay. And then you stop doing the things that got you to where you are. And then you'll start to notice that certain behaviors and attitudes might come back, and those are red flags. So it's so important to have the consistency and the commitment, and that creates the self-love, that creates the hope. And the more and more you're able to achieve your goals, you build confidence, you build evidence, and the more and more you're able to get through strong emotions, tough emotions, especially addictive emotions, you build evidence that I got through this, now I can get through that. Your I nevers become, yes, I can do this. I've seen so many people that thought they couldn't get out of the streets, that they thought they were just going to settle for a life of, continuous using and possibly death. I've seen people rise from the ashes like the phoenix, and create a life and maintain like over 22 years of recovery. I myself am one of those people. I'm going to admit that here, and I'm just saying, like, if somebody like me can do it and then bring that same gift into the work that I do and help other people, like, let me be the hope for the people that are still struggling. Let the people that
Yeah.
are also in active recovery from these things help the people who are still struggling. Be that beacon of hope. If someone like me can do it, you can do it. If someone like whomever, some of my people that I've witnessed, if they can do it, you can do it too. It's just a matter of that consistency, that commitment
Mm.
to build that resiliency, you know.
Therein lies that deep passion, motivation, commitment that you have with your own personal life journey and triumph and continual. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate what you're saying about yes, there's benchmarks that you hit, but it's really just it's this continual process, and that doesn't have to be scary, daunting, or overwhelming. Actually, continual can mean that I can take this a bite size at a time, as you were
Mm-hmm.
saying, literally one step at a time.
And that's why we tell people to keep it in today. Because if you look to tomorrow, you look to next week, you're going to overwhelm yourself. We only have this moment. And when you're looking to the future and you start to get into what ifs, that creates anxiety. So we want to try and avoid as much anxiety as possible. That's why, when you start wandering into tomorrow, into next week, into next year, it's good to, make plans and think about those things, but not
Sure.
obsess. There's a difference between obsessing and just thinking about and planning, right? But want to keep it in the now, the here, the present. That's why mindfulness practices is so important. Meditation practices, yogic practices, because it really gets you to center and be in the here and now and in the present. We might not like what is going on presently, but being in that moment presently is what's important and how to navigate through.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Thank you. So speaking of that, and I know this is something that just comes up more often than ever for folks, just because there is so much on our minds, and we feel like we have to work harder at keeping in this mindset of, yes, I can actually just make one decision at a time, and that is enough. You know, this whole
Mm-hmm.
messaging of, hey, what I'm doing is enough, and that actually helps me to do what I'm doing better if I
Yeah.
can embrace that concept. How would you feel about guiding us through like a simple breath work, like something that you've used with your folks that is helpful? I know there's
Sure.
so many different kinds of, breathing practices out there, and I'd love to just have you share something that you either have personal benefit with or you've seen your clients really benefit from.
Well, personal benefits that I've had is Kundalini yoga that saves lives. I'm just telling y'all right now. I'm working on my consistency with that, just being honest. And there's some breath work that I take from the Kundalini yoga that I like to also, give to my students and my clients. One of my favorite ones is where you hold your nose and you kind of go up one side and out the other. So let's see if I can remember this
All right,
correctly.
let's do it.
All right, take your left hand and your two fingers over your nostrils, like that, close them both. And you're going to want to take the thumb and breathe up the left nostril for 4 counts. Hold it, and then out the right side. And then you want to keep doing that in like a repetitive motion. And you want to keep it in 4 or 5, or just allow your breath to be what it is. So up again. And you really want to go deep with the breath. You really want to feel it in the diaphragm. You want to hold it, and then breathe out the right side. And you can keep repeating this process up again. Hold it, out the other side. And you can keep repeating that and keep repeating that. And I found, of course, you might get a little snot on your fingers. That's okay. But I found that when people are going through anxiety, when they're highly activated, this kind of distracts you. You got to really pay attention. You got to get in the here and now to figure out, what am I doing with my fingers and my nostrils? So like, you're distracting your mind, and then you're breathing. You're deeply,
Yeah, yeah.
intentionally breathing and clearing out. And I
And
found
feeling,
that so simple, so
yes,
easy to do, but so effective. And people think we have to have this big grandiose thing to make change. No, little tiny things,
yeah.
little
And
things.
that
It
times
all
100,
matters.
right? Imagine just doing that on a regular basis. And one of the great things is just feeling a little bit of control again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the exact opposite of where the anxiety sends us, right? Is it's in this place of
Yeah.
I feel like there's things are outside of my control, and therein lies that breath work has
Mm-hmm.
that amazing benefit of not only the balancing, the more oxygen, better exchange
Mm-hmm.
of carbon dioxide and oxygen, but also that I just did something and it helped me. I do have some measure of control. I do have some ability to impact my
Mm-hmm.
experience of myself.
And it's amazing when a student comes back and like, yeah, I tried it and it worked. Oh, I also want to go over another technique if you're finding yourself highly activated. We get triggered all kinds of ways, right? So sometimes if you're highly activated and the breath work just isn't doing it for you, I want you to still continue on with that breath work, but I want you to find a place in the room, one focal point, one thing to look at, something pretty, a light, just one focal point. And then you're going to want to kind of like put your feet and your hands in the chair, continue with the deep breathing, and you can kind of just start gripping yourself, just like little things on the shoulder. And you bring them down on the arms. And it's like you're grounding yourself. You're feeling yourself in the here and now. You're feeling yourself sitting in the chair. You're focusing on that one thing. And while you're deep breathing, it kind of helps de escalate and bring down the emotional state. So Yeah. It's kind of just giving yourself a little self-love, grounding,
Love this one. Yeah.
feeling yourself here, giving yourself a nice big hug, you know? All
Mm,
these things matter.
yummy. It's a good start to the day.
Yeah.
Raina, thank you so much. You have such a wealth of knowledge, experience, and just expertise. And I, I look forward to getting you back on here again. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Tonight, as a matter of fact, Raina is going to be over at our Highland Park Wellness Center, Soma Bayou Garden. She is part of a sound bath immersive that's taking place with Ben Diamond, who's had some wonderful sound healings at our place. And Ben was on earlier this week, just talking about power of everyday action in the community. And Ben will actually be back on this evening, right before the sound healing. We're hopping on to do a quick broadcast, and he's going to talk a little bit more about the power of sound and how that really can impact that better me process. So anyone who's in the area, come on by, check it out.
Yes, come, come,
Beautiful,
come.
beautiful experience, and you get to see Raina in person. Like,
And
what more could there be?
just imagine having two sound healers, one on one side, one on the other, and being in the middle of all that vibration. Like, please come out and experience this. It's free. You know, it's solstice. We want to get into our bodies, get into the spirit. Ah, yes. Come on
Love
out.
it. Can't wait. Thanks and blessings so much, my dear, for being on here. I
Thank you for
appreciate you
waking me up
so
early.
much. To everyone, thank you for tuning in whenever you tune in. And most of all, I hope you felt a little inspiration about how you can really reclaim and maintain your power when it comes to the choices that you make every day.
Ooh,
One
I
good
want to
one,
add one.
one
I want
better
to add
one.
one last thing.
There you go. That's the beginning. Drop us a line, whether you're seeing this now or later on inside the app. And if you don't have it yet, hop on in there. RT's Yoga Healing Consortium. The broadcasts are in there. We would love to hear how you are doing with this. Blessings to you all. Satnam. Namaste.
Satnam Namaste. One last thing. Keep the joy. The joy. You want to have joy and laughter in this process. Okay. Satnam Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you so much.